All right, as people start trickling in here, I'll give my little intro spiel to everybody. My name is Brianna Coma, and I'm with Conservation Nebraska. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to learn more about Nebraska's wonderful travel destinations and activities. A couple of reminders before we get started. You are all muted and your cameras are off, so you cannot be seen or heard. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to throw them in the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll go over them at the end. This webinar is also being recorded, so if you have any questions or want to share it with anybody, it will be on Conservation Nebraska's YouTube channel in just a couple of weeks. Also, as you guys probably just noticed, a poll just popped up on your screen. This helps Conservation Nebraska to improve on future webinars and events. There will be this pre-quiz, and then there will be a post-quiz with basically the same questions on here. We're just gauging everybody's knowledge and what we're learning and how helpful these webinars really are. So we really appreciate you guys filling those out. So with all that being said, let's adventure into the travel world with Jenna, Bartja, and Madison Johnson. Jenna is an adventure travel specialist with Nebraska Tourism Commission. She consults with private tourism business and county visitor bureaus throughout the state to identify, develop, and promote nature-based assets. Previously, she worked with the Grand Canyon Conservancy as a program coordinator. She is currently pioneering astrotourism development with Nebraska and leading the coordinator efforts to pursue the state's first international dark sky place, which we will hopefully hear more about later on in this webinar. We also have Madison Johnson with us tonight. She is the Passport Program Coordinator at Nebraska Tourism Commission. Her focus is on participation, program development, and implementation, as well as training and educating selected program applicants regarding the benefits of the program. She received her bachelor's degree in hospitality, restaurant, and tourism management from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And now I will hand it over to Jenna to get us started.
Hi, everybody, and thanks so much for that introduction, Brianna. I will maybe give people a little bit more time to finish this poll, or should I just launch into it?
You can launch into it.
Okay, I'm gonna close it out. Make your last minute, cast your last minute choices if you haven't already. All right. So obviously, like Brianna said, we're here today to talk about some sustainable travel in Nebraska. We kind of hope to touch on some sustainable modes of travel, but also some specific destinations that we can point you toward in the state that we think are some of our state's best sustainable tourism offerings. And I'm going to kind of speak first and go through my slides, and then I will introduce Madison, who's also on the call. Let's see. Here we go. So there we are. So I'll start off by just kind of giving an overview on adventure travel and ecotourism. So adventure travel kind of broadly is, tourists and people that are interested in traveling to places for unique experiences, often nature-based, often in a kind of a responsible way. So, low impact, sustainable is absolutely a word that we would use to describe, adventure travel and adventure travelers, and so that is kind of the realm or the lens through which, I look at when I am looking to help businesses, is whether or not they kind of fit this mold for, what their business model is and what their goals are. And if that kind of fits with them, then I'm happy to work with them. And I can also help them kind of transition oftentimes from maybe a not so sustainable or practices that may not be considered as sustainable to some easy quick fixes for how to make their business more sustainable or appealing to adventure travelers. You may have heard the word ecotourism as well. ecotourism and adventure travel. They're often used interchangeably. They go hand in hand. I would say that ecotourism is more specific to tourists traveling to a destination or place to experience a specific thing that occurs in nature. So this would be, not just traveling because, you want to go hiking, but traveling because maybe you want to go see the kiwi bird. You would have to visit a very specific place in New Zealand to see a kiwi bird because that is the only place in the world that they live. Those travelers kind of often, they're traveling with specific things in mind. It may not be the destination itself that's driving their decision to travel, but specific things within, specific places that are driving their desire to travel. So the topics that I'm going to kind of cover today and chat with you about are going to be our state's wonderful parks and rec areas. I'll also touch on birding. Many of you have hopefully heard of the sandhill crane migration, which is a huge attraction for our state. But there's lots of other really great birding to be done in Nebraska and places that you can visit that are maybe outside of that migration season to experience some other really neat species that travel through our state. Biking Nebraska, biking, again, Nebraska's so kind of almost custom made for bicyclists, adventure bicyclists. We've got, lots of gravel roads. Gravel biking is becoming increasingly popular. Anytime you're biking somewhere, it's sustainable because you're not using fuel to get from A to B. You're using your own muscle energy to get you around. And I think that you can see so much more and appreciate so much more by bike sometimes too, because you're not going as fast as you are in a car. You're not going 80 miles an hour, down I-80, you're taking back roads, you're seeing maybe some smaller towns and things that you wouldn't see otherwise. So love biking. We'll chat a little about some of the offerings and some of my recommendations for that. And then dark sky destinations. So as Brianna said, for the last 3 years, I have been working for Nebraska Tourism. I have been working with different partners throughout the state to develop astro-tourism offerings. That just means using the beautiful night sky that we have here. We're a very, very rural state, meaning that we don't have a whole lot of large, brightly lit urban areas. And that means that we have very, very limited light pollution, especially out west and on the Panhandle. About a fourth of the state lies under really, really pristine night sky with conditions that are just not found very frequently in many places across the world anymore. So that's something that's really special. It costs us nothing to say, it's not like we have to develop the bright skies. It's just that we have them. We want to acknowledge them, protect them as a natural resource, and invite people to come and enjoy them. So I'll talk about some things that I've been doing to, engage people's interest in that. So we'll start off with the parks and rec areas. I say get outside. I think that is one of the easiest, sustainable things that you can possibly do, especially if it's, out your back door and along a trail. Again, if you're not having to get into a car to, go somewhere, that's wonderful because you're saving gas money. You're not producing any emissions to enjoy what it is that you are touring around, and it's such a nice refresh to get outside, to appreciate nature, hit that reset button, and what better place to do that than in our state parks and rec areas. Nebraska has over 76 recreational use areas throughout the state. Here I have listed on the slide our 8 state parks. So those are kind of like the creme de la creme of the group. But all of these places, have, different points of interest, whether it be a body of water, a lake, a river, maybe it's just a really peaceful and remote and, kind of in a sleepy place. Those are my favorite places to visit because when I go to take a vacation or to take a respite from work, I don't want to be inundated with people. I want to feel alone. I want to feel at peace with, nature and in nature. So those are all things that, I would recommend is to find a park near you, and hit the road by car or by bike, visit your parks, experience your parks. You do need a park pass to visit any Nebraska state park. You can go to outdoornebraska.gov to find the one near you. And I really hope that you do. There's just some splendid things in the state. And I think that these places are a really good representation of what our state has to offer in terms of, outdoor rec, and hopefully will help change people's perceptions that visit Nebraska as to what Nebraska is really all about, because these are the places that really showcase its beauty, the tranquility of Nebraska, and of course, small town charm and hospitality. So birding, and one more thing on this slide, sorry, I almost forgot. So another thing that I will just champion is, a lot of these parks or rec areas, they are based around lakes or rivers. We have an abundance of fresh water in Nebraska that is wonderful for recreation, fishing, swimming, tubing, kayaking. Some of our rivers are even calm enough for weird extracurricular activities like tanking. For those that don't know what tanking is, I think it was maybe invented in Nebraska, maybe Kansas. We'll take credit for it though, which is where you essentially take a livestock tank and you dunk it in the river, and you load it up with coolers. You might have some refreshing drinks in there, and you just peacefully kind of spin down a calm, nice, gently flowing river, enjoying, what's around you. It's not the fastest way to travel, but that's not what we're about here. But it is a very, very unique experience, and one that, again, we've really marketed pretty heavily in the last few years as a unique offering. Not all rivers in the state are the best for tanking. You want a really nice, calm, steadily flowing river. So rivers like the Niobrara, which have some rapids, have some areas of we won't call it white water, but upper class grades of water. That's not the type of river that you want to go on when you want to be tanking. A better place would be the Middle Loop River, which is out in the Sandhills. It's also aquifer fed, which by the Ogallala Aquifer, which means that it maintains a certain depth throughout the year. It doesn't get super heavy drawdown from agricultural use. So if you're interested in tanking or you want to give that a try, the Middle Loop River is the one I would recommend. So transitioning now into birding. So I hope that you have all heard about the sandhill crane migration. If you haven't, I'll just give a little spiel on it. So every spring, early spring, from about February to early April, about 1 million as of last year. The numbers have been rising. Sandhill cranes are doing really, really well in terms of bird species vitality. They're actually on the rise. So what was formerly maybe 500,000, 600,000 is now close to 1 million sandhill cranes that will fly over Nebraska between February and the beginning of April. They stop over on the Platte River. They've been doing this for centuries. They will refuel there. They will feed on waste corn in surrounding fields around the Platte. And then they roost on the river at night. It offers them protection. It offers them a resting place for their stopover where they can relax, refuel, and then carry on their migration up to Canada and parts of Siberia. It is one of the largest animal migrations on Earth. So the fact that we get to claim it is something that is purely and uniquely Nebraska. They stop over here on the Platte River. You can go other places to see the sandhill cranes, but they will be here in huge numbers, oftentimes mixed flocks. So you will see other bird species that are migrating with them, but above and beyond, it's mostly sandhill cranes. It's just an amazing experience. I cannot recommend it enough. The places that the two places here, Crane Trust and Rose Sanctuary, that I have listed, both of those organizations are nonprofit organizations. They're conservation organizations that offer blind tours and other viewing opportunities during the sandhill crane migration. If you are interested in seeing the sandhill cranes, there are certainly other places that you can go to experience that or see them, but these are the two of the best places that offer that experience. They're also, because they're conservation organizations, the money that you're spending for a blind tour, which is still really, really reasonable. I think it's between $30 and $40 a person to do this. And you can do a morning or an evening session. You're getting to experience, again, one of the world's largest animal migrations, learning about the sandhill cranes, learning about their habitat, why the Platte River and the riparian ecosystem there is so important for their continued survival and longevity in terms of their migration. So these two organizations I cannot recommend more, because the money that you're giving to them is going right back to education, habitat restoration, and conservation efforts around the sandhill crane and the Platte River as an ecosystem. So those are great organizations. If you haven't been to see the crane migration, strongly recommend. Again, that's between February and early April is the best time to book a blind tour, and you'll need to book it in November or December. So the November or December preceding early spring, because the blind tours do fill up, because it is so, so cool. In terms of other birding opportunities, I know that we really, really market the sandhill cranes. It is a unique thing. We love to, invite people here to see that, but there are so many other neat birding opportunities throughout our state. I mentioned before that we have a huge amount of freshwater lakes, rivers. Those are, habitat and support for migrating species that come through, aside from the sandhill crane. So we get lots of different bird species that are flying through the Central Flyway, which comes right through Nebraska. It's the same flyway that the sandhill cranes use. We tout the spring migration, but there's also a fall migration as well. So you may have an opportunities to see different bird species, heading back, than you would heading north. So places to experience or do, try and spot birds would be the rainwater basin, which takes up, this is like the umbrella term for the very, very large, amount of land. It's probably about 6,000 acres that are in south central Nebraska. So just south of the Platte River, there is this system of ephemeral or temporary wetlands, lakes, ponds, that their water levels may fluctuate over time with rain or with drought. But again, this is a huge source of habitat for birds, for migrating species, for some species that just stick around and like to be near lakes, like bald eagles. Nebraska has a very healthy population of bald eagles. I don't think I've seen more bald eagles in any other state. When I came to Nebraska, I was just like amazed. It's like I can just be driving down I-80 and see bald eagles, which is really neat. So there's lots of wildlife management districts within the rainwater basin. You can look to various different sources to figure out, which places may be appealing to you. The NRD, the rainwater basin is, I believe, through NRD or Forest Service is where a lot of those accessible areas are managed through. So look to those resources for finding locales to see some unique bird species. Another really neat one that you can see around the same time as the cranes is the whooping crane. Whooping cranes are critically endangered. There's only about less than 500 birds on Earth. And Nebraska is one of the places that you can actually come to see and spot whooping cranes. They are larger than sandhill cranes, like considerably larger. So you can pick them out of a flock if need be. They are not as commonly found in the Platte. They like some of these other ephemeral ponds and wetland areas that are just south of the Platte. Like Funk is one, Funk Basin is one example. Johnson Lake is another that is really good for bald eagles. So encourage you guys to check that out. And then the last one I'll leave you with for birding is the Wildcat Hills, which is far west, almost into Colorado. You're in the Scottsbluff, Gearing area. The Wildcat Hills are these beautiful formations that really are like essentially you're entering the steppe region. So you've got some increase in topography, and this creates some really neat like thermal activity for things like vultures and hawks and eagles. The only golden eagles I've ever seen were in the Wildcat Hills, and those are something that typically people would probably go to Colorado to see. But they are in Nebraska as well as some additionally more kind of Western trending bird species. If you've got a bird checklist and you want to get some more Western trending species checked off your list, that is where I can recommend you go in Nebraska to see those. So biking, one of my favorite if not my favorite thing to encourage people to get out and do in Nebraska is to bike. I myself enjoy biking casually, I will say. I do commute to work. Lincoln, when I first moved here 3 years ago, really surprised me how established our trail system is here. And in metro areas in general, Lincoln and Omaha both have great trail networks and a trail system of really easy to commute trails. And I was, again, super surprised to learn that Lincoln actually consistently ranks as one of the top 50 most bikeable cities in America. So that was really neat. I definitely take advantage of that by commuting to work when I can. I'm a fair weather biker. I don't mess with snow. So it's about 4 or 5 months out of the year that I will bike to work, but we utilize the trails for other things as well. We'll bike downtown. We'll go, grab a beer or a cider, and take our bikes and take the trails to do that. Additionally, there are some bicycling events that happen annually in Nebraska. These are really, I think, really well catered to a wide range of experienced bicyclists to novice bicyclists. Because they're mostly pretty short rides. So Bran is Bike Ride Across Nebraska. That's the longest of the rides I have listed here in terms of scheduled events. Bran is really neat because every year they change the route. So it will feature a different route and different towns that you will ride through for usually about 150 miles over the course of 5 to 7 days. I think it's 5 days. So you're going, a really reasonable amount per day. You're not, it's very relaxed. They will, for most of these events, they will shuttle like your luggage for you. They have free camping, free services that they will set up to kind of help assist the riders. They just make it so easy and comfortable to feel confident in doing these types of rides. And you're, again, getting to experience some of the most beautiful areas in Nebraska that small town charm, because brand changes location. It doesn't get stale. You get to experience new places every year that you do it. So if you're a curious bike rider, maybe a novice bike rider like me, but you're curious about doing an event ride, I strongly encourage you to look into brand as an option. Golden Ride, which is the third one on my list here. I would tout that as like even better for beginners, probably, because it is from Lincoln to Beatrice. They just started it it had its very first ride was last September. And it's Bike Walk Nebraska's kind of signature fundraising event. It's very, very affordable. I think it was $150 for early registration and maybe $250 for regular registration. And that covers, again, bicycle assist the whole way, some meal tickets. You get to drink beer all along the way. Who doesn't love, stopping to have like a nice cold one on a hot September day? And just, again, it creates this environment and this fun where it's not really so much about like it being a race as it is just a ride, a way to enjoy yourselves, to enjoy time with maybe family members or friends. And this ride is really one that I think I'll be doing. If it was going to be this year, but I can't do it this year because I'm in a wedding that same weekend. But would strongly encourage anybody that is just wanting a shorter ride. This one's only about, I think it's 44 miles, 44 or 48 from Lincoln to Beatrice. You take the day, you've got scheduled stops throughout the day, you make it there, they have a concert, they have food, you camp out in a park. It's super, super fun. And then the next day you wake up and you ride back to Lincoln. So that one I would recommend for people that are really just wanting to dip their toe into adventure cycling and see, hey, is this something that I'm going to like doing? Is this a way that I like, experiencing being a tourist is by bike? I can certainly, again, recommend it just from exploring Lincoln and exploring some of the places abroad that I have by bike. It is a really, really nice way to see a place. I put Gravel Worlds on there because that is a more serious event, but it is one that we've gotten a lot of recognition for. Again, like I said, we have a lot of gravel roads and trails. Increasingly, riding on gravel is becoming more and more popular among bicyclists. You guys have probably heard of fat tire bikes. Those bikes have kind of come into the market in recent years, specifically so that riders can ride gravel and more uneven terrain surfaces, expanding the horizon for, trails that they can use and places that they can see by bike. So Gravel Worlds is a really neat one. That's definitely more of a race, but still a really neat one. Again, it's all in good fun. And something that, even if maybe you wouldn't want to ride in, you'd maybe want to spectate, because I think that one would be a pretty fun one to watch parts of. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Cowboy Trail. So like I said, I talked about Lincoln having an extensive trail network, and we have several other, cities within Nebraska that have, good or, are emerging, trail networks that are continually being developed and continually being built and added upon. One really, really exciting one is the Cowboy Trail. So currently the Cowboy Trail runs from Norfolk to Valentine. And there are pieces of it that are also that have also been built or established, extending further west toward Chadron and out of Chadron. And eventually the goal is to kind of connect this trail, and it will travel all the way across the state of Nebraska, coming kind of south from Lincoln up to Omaha, and then up toward Norfolk, and then over to Valentine, and then all the way to Chadron and into Wyoming. So Cowboy Trail, it's a rail trail, meaning that an old abandoned railway used to traverse this section of the country. And the Rails to Trails Network is a nonprofit organization that works with communities to essentially buy back those abandoned rail lines from the rail company and saying, hey, if you're no longer using this as a rail line, we'd love to develop it as a trail and have this corridor connect communities, connect cities, and even eventually states. The exciting thing, I think the most exciting thing about Cowboy Trail, other than that it is absolutely beautiful. It takes you through the sandhills, some of the state's, I think, most beautiful countryside. Really, really enjoyable riding, I think, is that it will ultimately, when connected, become part of a transcontinent trail. So from all the way from the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast, Rails to Trails Conservancy is building a America's Trail, and it is going to traverse the entire our entire country, and Nebraska will be an integral component of that. Because we have so much trail developed already, we were kind of initially sought out as one of the best route options for this trail to take. And once complete, not only will Nebraska be a significant component, it will have the longest section of trail of any other state that would be part of this trail system. So, people can, if they want to just say, maybe they don't have the time to ride the full trail, be coming to Nebraska, maybe to ride the longest section of it, through Nebraska. So this is something that we can really tout as a special offering, and something that I hope that people will continue taking advantage of. So check out the Cowboy Trail. There's also a really good website that's run. The Cowboy Trail is managed by Game and Parks, so they do maintenance on it. They do continued funding with it. But there's also a website run by another guy who has pretty good resources for biking the Cowboy Trail. And I think his website is Bike the Cowboy Trail. You can just Google bike, Cowboy Trail, and his website will come up. Maybe a really good resource for those who are thinking about biking either the full extent or parts of it. All right, and last but not least, I'm probably running over my time here, so I'll try and kind of get through this a little bit more quickly. We're going to talk dark skies and bright stars. So, astrotourism, that's been my baby for the past 3 years. I've been working directly with Game and Parks to identify locales that can pursue an International Dark Sky Place designation. That designation is awarded by, again, a nonprofit organization called International Dark Sky Association. And they give this certification to places that have undergone essentially a lot of really good work to retrofit lighting within their parks to be dark sky friendly. Dark sky friendly lighting points downward, it's fully shielded, and it's turned off when it's not needed. So that helps save energy, that helps protect our night from light pollution. It also has a huge impact on helping to protect nocturnal species, animals that function at night, are migrating birds. So there's just like multi-level benefits to simply turning off the lights or lighting in a smarter way than what we have kind of evolved to currently do. Merritt Reservoir and State Recreation Area was the site that we selected to pursue this certification. We've been working for every bit of 3 years on this certification, and we are finally at the precipice of getting this certification. So I really hope within the next month or two, you may hear us with some exciting news releasing that this has finally been awarded. It will be Nebraska's first International Dark Sky Place. Hopefully not its last. Like I said, we have such good conditions for pursuing more of these, and this will hopefully not only help fulfill IDA's mission of creating awareness for light pollution, but also kind of celebrate Nebraska as a place that has beautiful dark skies. And for those that are interested in astronomy or just want to, again, appreciate what the Milky Way looks like, that Nebraska can be a place that's maybe nearby that they can travel to experience that. Why I think dark skies and stargazing is sustainable is because it really requires essentially no commitment or financial anything on behalf of the person who's experiencing it. It truly just requires an area with limited light pollution. You got to get there, so you do have to find a way to get there, but once you're there, I mean, it's really about experiencing it. I've found that in areas that are dark, that have dark skies, there are often observers that are maybe more than just casual observers. They might be astronomy hobbyists. They may have telescopes or other visual aid devices, and they're so friendly. They will always offer for you to look in the scope. They'll teach you something. They'll show you how to identify constellations in the sky. This is just it just makes it such a, again, communal experience when you're able to experience that and actually able to see what our beautiful night skies are really truly meant to look like. So a great opportunity to do that in Nebraska would be to head up to Merritt Reservoir State Recreation Area, which is just south of Valentine. So it's in the far north central part of the state. And every summer we have a Nebraska Star Party, and that is a week-long event with lots of activities built in. There's meals that you can opt in or opt out of. You camp, you learn, you have, and it's just a really great time and a really wonderful way to experience Nebraska, one of Nebraska's gems in terms of dark areas. I guarantee you probably have not seen a darker sky than what you will see at Merritt Reservoir. It's also got there, so if you're into fishing or swimming, you can recreate during the day and stay up late and watch the stars and the planets as they shift through the sky. Some other places that you could consider are our Heritage Guest Ranch, which is far out in the northwestern corner of the state. So if you keep heading west from Valentine and Merritt, you'll find your way to our Heritage Guest Ranch. They are a working ranch that offers kind of working ranch experiences, which is a pretty unique offering, something that, again, I think puts people in touch with where our food comes from, sustainable practices in ranching, and all of those things that I think it's really important that we increasingly become aware of and educate ourselves about so that we can be more conscious consumers. It's right near Toadstool Geologic Park, which is another really, really neat attraction in Nebraska, where there are these hoodoo type looking rock formations that have, been eroded over time, and bizarre, cool landscape filled with fossils, filled with early mammal fossils, which have also, really helped progress some scientific knowledge about the Pleistocene period and the age at which some of our early mammals would have roamed around in Nebraska. Hyde Memorial Observatory and Branch Oak Observatory, those are both located here near Lincoln. They offer certain programs, usually in the summertime, some in the winter. If there's like a neat astronomical event happening, like there were the planets aligning last Friday, I'm sure that they offered an event for that and invited people out so that they could view the planets, talk about how often or how rare it is for that to happen. And again, just, kind of open people's eyes to the wonder that is our night sky and all of the interesting things about it. Fred G. Dale Planetarium is in Wayne, so that's about 2 hours north of here. The planetarium, it's neat because regardless of the weather or the quality of the night sky, you can experience what dark sky would look like. So the planetarium is a totally enclosed space. It's like a domed ceiling. They do really, really consistent programming there as well. So if you're looking for more information and maybe you're not as outdoorsy of a person, I could really recommend that as a great educational resource. I think it's a very reasonable price too for entry for that programming. And last but not least, there's Honey Creek Observatory, and that's in O'Neill. This is a privately run observatory, but it is, again, they've got at least one very, very big telescope that they do allow public viewing through. And if you've never looked at deep space objects through a telescope, it will blow your mind. It is one of the neatest things. I go back to the Star Party every year because I love looking through people's scopes and, discovering new things that are in our night sky that you just can't see with your naked eye.
We might have lost Jenna for a second. We'll get her back in just a second. I think she was almost done. So Madison, if you oh.
I can kind of plan to take over, Jenna. Or you're back. Do you need to finish up?
I think I'll let you take over because I feel like I've already gone over my time. Let me share my screen again, or do you want to share it, Madison?
If you could share yours, that would be wonderful.
I can do it. Okay, are we back to the right page that we were on?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just resume by saying, if you haven't gotten curious about the night sky, get curious, get out there, and enjoy Nebraska's dark skies, because 80% of the world's populations live under a light polluted sky, where you do not get to see the Milky Way. You're lucky if you get to see a handful of stars and the moon. And it is a completely different experience when you actually get to be in awe of our magnificent heavens. So like I said, get interested, get out there and do some nighttime observing at one of our dark places in the state. And then that's kind of my finishing slide. So I was almost done. Thank goodness I timed out at the right time. That was my cue to hush, to stop talking and turn it over to Madison, so she's got some time to share with you some of the really exciting things that she has got going on. And Madison, if you want me to control the slides, just let me know and I'll change slides for you. I don't know if you'll be able to do it or not since I'm sharing. So
I don't think I will be, but I'll let you know. Okay. Yes. So like was said at the beginning, my name is Madison Johnson, and I am the Nebraska Passport Program Coordinator for Visit Nebraska / Nebraska Tourism, Nebraska Tourism Commission, whatever you want to call it. And as you can see in this picture right here, I'm going to talk about this stop actually here in a second, but we'll go over kind of a slight overview of the program, kind of give you an idea of what the program actually is and complete, as well as going into some more specifics on places that are specifically built for conservation and or are very sustainable and kind of have a unique bent to them other than just like a restaurant. So yes, Jenna, next, please. So what is the Nebraska Passport Program? So it's a fun and interactive travel program that gives both in-state and out-of-state travelers new ideas of places to visit. So we like to use the term hidden gems as a way of describing these places because they are really new. It's going to be a lot of places that you've probably never heard of before, maybe never even had an idea of potentially going there yourself. I love saying that, this program is a lot of new places, but with the places that you have heard of before. You've probably driven by, you know, a cool coffee shop or cool boutique or recreation area or museum, you know, a handful of times, or sometimes even 100 times if it's in your neighborhood or near where you live, and you haven't gone in there. And this just gives you a little kick in the tush to say, hey, go inside this place. It's going to be cool. You're going to like it. And then, of course, the overall goal of this program is to impact Nebraska businesses and communities. And Jenna can slide for me. Sweet. So the program is really popular. If I'll show you right here if you can see me. It's this little booklet right here is kind of the heart of the program, but there are 70 stops across the state and they change every year. So if maybe you participated in 2020 or 2021, you're going to get a whole new gamut of stops in 2022. So last year we had over 1,300 people make it to all 70 of our stops on the program. And that number has kind of grown by about 100 to 150 each season, which is just awesome. It doesn't feel like I've done anything to have that happen. I just feel like it's such a word of mouth program. People are so dang passionate about it that it really just kind of has grown on its own. And it's just such a beautiful way of getting people to kind of experience Nebraska and kind of fall in love with Nebraska, especially if they're not from here, or maybe they've been here their whole life and they've lived in Omaha and they've never been to Scottsbluff. So it's really fun to kind of just get people to maybe just have a little bit more of appreciation. So those are some other statistics. We have a passport app that I'll talk about a little bit later, but we printed 55,000 passport booklets last summer and we went through all of them. So this year we printed 60,000. So there's plenty available if you would like one and you want to get interested in the program. It's a really great way to kind of give you some fun summertime things. There we go. Each year, the program is separated out into tours or themes, as kind of we like to call them. So these are just the little icons that we use. The program's kind of fun and has a lot of character to it. So I think the tours are a big part of that. I'll talk about 2 or 3 of them kind of individually, but to give you a kind of general overview, we have a family fun tour, there's a history tour, there is a sewing and craft tour, shopping, breweries and wineries, coffee, the whole thing. So each tour is its own little special thing. And just because a stop is on a certain tour doesn't mean you have to go to it. It's just a fun way of kind of categorizing everything together. All right, so the first tour I want to talk about is called Animal Magnetism. A lot of our tours have kind of silly, fun names associated with them. So the Animal Magnetism tour has great places for people to view wildlife or to learn at least about natural wildlife, natural plants, natural things in Nebraska, especially. So the one that was the beginning of this PowerPoint is that picture on the far right. That is the Prairie Creek Audubon Center. Thank you, Jenna. If you've never been there, it is in Denton, Nebraska. So very close to Lincoln, actually. It's only about 15-minute drive southwest of Lincoln. And it is 150-acre tall grass prairie. And 640 acres of that have never been plowed. So if you are unfamiliar with the way that Nebraska used to look, it's very different than what it looks now. There used to be no trees, there was no corn, there was no soybeans. It was all beautiful tall grass or short grass prairie, depending on what part of the state you're in, with natural flowers and forbs and different types of things that were kind of unique to Nebraska and especially unique to the Great Plains. So that is 640 acres of completely never been plowed native prairie, which means that it was never a farmland that was then turned back into a prairie. It has always been a prairie, which is just, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. I love some native plants. That's kind of my jam. But they also have ponds and wetlands, and there's lots of great wildlife. And it is an Audubon Center, which means that they're kind of focused on birds. So a lot of the reason that they're maintaining that prairie is to sustain the bird population and a lot of the native birds in Nebraska. And It's pretty special, and the people who work there, there's a visitor center. It's really lovely. So then the other ones we have on there is Merritt Reservoir that Jenna talked about is actually also on this tour this year. We have Harrop Sandhills Park, which is near Taylor, Nebraska, and that's kind of similar. It's just a completely open prairie. It's at the kind of the cusp of where the sandhills start. So it's a great way to really see, you know, wide open spaces. As you can see in that photo, which is the very center photo, there's no trees in that picture. So you can kind of get a taste of what it was like. And then right there in the bottom right-hand corner is our crane trust that is in Wood River. And again, that is focused on sandhill cranes, sandhill crane migration. So they will have a ton of great information about sandhill cranes, why they come here, what their lifespan is. Something I learned is sandhill cranes, if you would have asked me about how long they live, I would have told you, 2-3 years. I don't know, whatever. No, they live to be 25 to 30 years old. They're old birds. Some of the birds that were there were older than I am, which is very weird to experience. But it's just a lot of great information and give you a big respect for the birds as a whole, as well as just kind of the importance of Nebraska in it. The next one, this one's a little more fun. This one's called Do It Yourselfie. It's kind of focused on outdoor things that are fun and pretty to look at. So the one in the very bottom center you might be familiar with, that is Car Hinge in Alliance. That is an outdoor art display. It's kind of a weird roadside attraction, big, super unique to Nebraska type situation. And then the one in the top corner is a Valley View Flowers. That is a You Pick flower farm. So they have all sorts of different flowers that you can go and pick for yourself during the summertime. I will say they did just have a really bad hailstorm, so some of their flowers are not quite as large as it used to be, but they said that they're replanting a lot for fall, and they're going to have a lot of like mums and different kind of fall oriented plants, a lot of pumpkins. It'll be cool. They've kind of refocused to do fall this year, which is fun. And then there's Robbers Cave here in Lincoln, which is a really unique, it's underground, it's a cave. A lot of things that people don't know about. So there's a lot of cool, the owner of that is really spreading a lot of really awesome information. And then of course we have plant stores, other places that are just kind of pretty and fun to look at. So that's another kind of example of what a tour is. Here's just a map of where all of the passport stops are in Nebraska. So you can see that they're really spread all over the place. I always kind of say I want someone who lives in Scottsbluff to be able to participate just as much as someone who lives in Omaha or Lincoln or, Norfolk or whatever. So the great thing about our program is you can kind of participate as much or as little as you'd like. A lot of people will kind of have a goal of making it to 25 stops. And a lot of people will carpool and do the program together. It's a lot of families, it's a lot of friends who will come together, and they will, maybe they're from different areas of the state, but they will do the entire passport program together. So it's very cool just to see the kind of the families and the friends that get to get reconnected, especially, and kind of visit some fun and unique little stops along the way. So the first stop I'm really going to highlight is the Hub Cafe. If you've never been there, it's actually right here in Lincoln. It is kind of near campus. It is about, it's on Antelope Creek. I can't think of the exact, it's on Antelope Parkway about, I think it's like R Street, I believe. But it is a really, really cool, very sustainable restaurant. All of their ingredients that they do is from Nebraska farmers, and it's all locally sourced. So it was originally opened a few years ago by a farmer who wanted to promote his own products. So he was a dairyman, and he wanted to be able to sell his or have a restaurant that served his cheese, his milk, his dairy products that he could use. Since then, he has moved on to kind of just include all sorts of different local producers, and now buys product from more than 20 area farms. And they're really committed to sourcing some of the best products for this restaurant here in Lincoln. They have a really unique menu too. It's not, eggs and bacon so much as it is really unique things. Like they have a roasted beet and goat cheese sandwich, which I thought was fun and sounded really good. And they've also salads and fresh things too. And so on their website it says you can drive your car, ride your bike, or walk down and visit us soon. So they're really cool, and they're always doing fun concerts and things.
I can attest to that their food is phenomenal. And I do ride my bike there very frequently because it's right connected to a trail. So the Billy Wolf Trail in Lincoln, if you get on that, you will ride past it, and please do stop and try it out because it is so good.
Yes, they serve a lot of different food than most places in Lincoln, which is really cool. You can get a lot of unique things there for sure. And they have a lot of really great vegan options as well. I know they really try to do that too. So that's really cool. Next up, this is Crane Trust. Again, talked about this already a little bit, but to reiterate, almost 1 million sandhill cranes fly through Nebraska every spring. And it is a really, really special thing. It's a beautiful thing to keep happening. I know a lot of people have said, bird migration is really decreasing just due to the human impact of a lot of this. So this is something that we can celebrate, and we can say, like, this is even growing. This is such a wonderful thing for just the history of Nebraska, let alone just the ecosystem of Nebraska. So they have almost 10,000 acres of habitat that they use to preserve for whooping cranes, sandhill cranes, and all different sorts of migratory birds. So that is in Wood River, so kind of in between, it's closer to Grand Island, but kind of in between Grand Island and Kearney. And yeah, again, like Jenna said, it is truly something one of a kind. The picture on the left, I actually took at a blind last summer. So yeah, or last spring. So really cannot talk about that enough. As someone who lives in Nebraska, you have to do it. It's incredible. Right, the next one is one of my favorite spots actually this year on the program. It is Zabuni specialty coffee auction. So Zabuni kind of got started back about 10 years ago when some really small scale coffee farmers in Kenya reached out to this husband and wife who live in Grand Island. Their names are Laban and Cora. And Laban is from Kenya and has family in Kenya, which is kind of the connection. And so all of the coffee that is sourced for their producers is all from small scale farms in Kenya that are so, it's like the ultimate, sustainable play. I mean, everything is made for people to have a livable wage, to keep producing coffee sustainably, to provide food and lodging for families that work on these farms. They kind of did this because they were so fed up with big coffee working and not treating them well. So this is really a cool small scale thing. You can go and tour. They have this massive warehouse. They give free samples. They love to talk to you about why they do what they do. It is a very unique thing and something that you wouldn't expect in downtown Grand Island. So the owners are really great, and they're really passionate about their coffee. And I can attest there's 4 bags of their coffee in my kitchen right now because it's so good. You can tell that it's made with a little bit more love and a little bit more uniqueness, and they have a lot of great flavors. So strongly suggest Zabuni coffee. The next one is the fiber mill. So this is a unique stop here. It's in Stromsburg, Nebraska, which is north of York. So it is a custom wool mill that does everything from washing, picking, spinning. They do kind of all different things, dyeing all of the wool. So it comes from sheep, alpacas, llamas, different types of wool bearing animals from all Nebraska farms. So if you are a farmer in Nebraska, say you have a herd of sheep and you would like to get things made from your wool, you don't just want to sell it to the marketplace. You want to create your own wool of your own alpacas or what have you. You can go to the fiber mill in Stromsburg and she will make your own yarn from your own animals. So it's so cool. And she makes all of these products. There's a store where you can buy locally made and locally grown wool products that are all dyed right there. So she's really great too. She's been doing it for a while and she's really passionate about it. She used to be in Colorado and then actually moved back home to Nebraska so that way she could grow her business, because there is such a new and kind of burgeoning wool industry here in Nebraska, because it's just such a cool way to kind of promote those local farmers and give them a little bit more bang for their buck, because it can be really hard for, the agricultural industry in general is very commercialized. So this is definitely a way of making people have a little bit more influence. And who doesn't want to wear a sweater that is made by a sheep that lives, 10 miles from you? the best. So yes, so that's really great. They also do tours of their mill. So they're free if you buy something, and then I don't think they're that expensive otherwise, but you can also go online, kind of look through her products, different things. Yes, that is a good one. And it's just in a little downtown Stromsburg. So it's a personal favorite as well, because I like to knit and crochet. So how do you participate? You, the person at home, how would you like to participate? So you need to get your hands on one of these bad boys. They're not hard to find. There are a few ways to get them. So the first thing is the passport program is free to everybody. So you don't have to charge any, or you don't have to pay anything to get a booklet, and you're not going to be charged any passport stops in order to receive a stamp. So you can either go on our website or the passport website, which is nebraskapassport.com, and request one, or you can go to any of the stops near you, either here in Lincoln, Omaha, surrounding areas, and pick up a booklet there. And you always want to grab one for a friend or family. You know, don't passport alone. It's just, you know, it's more fun to do it with others. And then there also is a Nebraska Passport app. So you just go to your app store, search for Nebraska Passport Program, and it'll show up there for you. And then you can also just get stamps digitally as well. So if you don't want to carry around a booklet, I would suggest it. The booklets make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more unique. You get to flip through these cool pages, and you get to get actual physical stamps like this guy right here. And this is my own book. I have my stamps in here. So I suggest both, but it's really simple. You just walk into the business, say, hi, I'm here on the passport, and they give you a stamp. A lot of businesses have some discounts for people who are participating in the passport program. So you might get 10% off, you might get a free appetizer, anything along those lines. So yeah, that's how you can get involved in it. And it's great for all ages. We have lots and lots of people from all age groups. The oldest person I had that got all 70 stops last year was 95, and the youngest person I had was 7 months old. So it's truly for everyone, and everyone can get something out of it, something that they'll like. So that is all I have. Thank you so much for letting us come speak. And if you have questions or anything, I'm happy to stick around. You can also email me if you have anything direct, or if you if you know of a business you think would be great for this program, especially a sustainable business, I would love to hear about it. So that is all I got.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I just threw the poll up for everybody, the post poll. So answer those questions. And if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat box of the Q&A, and we will go over them. We do have one question so far. Sarah asked, how do we help volunteer get involved with promoting Nebraska's sustainable tourism?
I know that there's lots of like stakeholder groups that are out there. So if you have something that you're interested in, like say that it's biking, there's a Nebraska bike foundation that works on identifying opportunities for trail development, for producing bicycling events, etc. That's just one example, but there are lots of kind of like stakeholder groups like that that are out there. I would say probably a lot of them are based in Lincoln, but I know that one specifically, I'm on that board, and we have members throughout the state. We try and make it very approachable for anyone that has an interest or feels very passionately about that to join that group and become involved. I would just encourage you to, look into that. If maybe it's not biking, maybe it's farm to fork, maybe it is, how do I maybe create a CSA or help start a farmer's market? There are great resources for that through UNL. So I know UNL does like a Buy Fresh, Buy Local group. And then there's I think probably loads of those similar things throughout the state where, Nebraskans, they just love to get together and be community oriented. So, talk to your friends and your family members and maybe some county officials and see what's out there in terms of what you can get involved in and aid in and efforts.
Rock on. If there's any other questions, get them in there. Otherwise, I do want to let you guys all know, I'll send out a email tomorrow, just a quick little follow-up that has some of the resources we talked about and maybe a little bit more on different areas of Nebraska to travel to and check out. But I do want to say thank you so much, Jenna and Madison. This was absolutely incredible. And I learned of new places that I had no idea that even existed here. So I am super excited to check those out. And we have in the chat box, Peggy said, thank you. This was a very interesting program. You all did a great job putting it together. So throwing praise out. Again, this webinar is being recorded. So if you miss anything, want to share it, check out Conservation Nebraska's YouTube channel. And otherwise, any other last minute questions in there?
You can always also visit our website, visitnebraska.com. Madison touted nebraskapassport.com. And then, through visitnebraska.com, you can also find an industry page, which has all things to do with the tourism industry. So if you are a small business owner or someone who has a tourism offering, reach out to one of us. We can help you find that page, help you get connected, and also list it on our website if you aren't currently. So I would just say, do not hesitate to reach out. I'm sure Brianna will share our contact information, and we look forward to hearing from you guys if there's ever any more questions or just a desire to chat.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, we are a little bit over, so I'll let everybody have a good evening and enjoy the sunset tonight. Hopefully it's looking good out there so far, not too cloudy. But thank you again, Jenna and Madison. You guys are so incredible and just a wealth of knowledge about our state and what it has to offer. So I can't thank you enough. And thank you everybody for taking the time and coming to listen to us tonight and learn more about the wonderful Nebraska state we all live in. And have a fantastic night.
Thanks, Brianna.
Thank you.
Bye.